Hi everyone, welcome to the Bloxley Balance. I'm Sam Shev, Chief Marketing Officer, and next to me today we have Sid.
Hey guys, Sid here. I'm an analyst at Bloxley, helping on a bunch of things from marketing to product and strategy. But yeah, we also have Jeff here, who's our guest for this week.
Hey guys, great to be here. Excited to talk. I've been in the space a long time, and I'm really excited about what Bloxley's doing and what the industry's doing. So really excited to dive in.
But I think first, before digging in, Jeff, let's hear from you what your role is at Bloxley and a bit more about yourself too.
Absolutely. So I'm Jeff McLaughlin. I am the Chief Product Officer for Bloxley. My background is in the Fintech space, the digital banking space, the crypto space, and really I've been a business guy focused on technology. Really fascinated about how things work, why things do what they do, and how they can help people. Love solving problems, and that's one of the reasons I really like product management, is because that's what we do. We see how things are going, and we figure out how to make them better and how to fix them.
Now,
Wow.
Jeff, if I can just dive right into it, one of the most interesting things about your background is you came from Kraken, right? And from Kraken, now you're a serial startup product marketer for fintech companies. What's the through line to that? How did you get into that?
So I'll go back even further. My undergraduate degree started in engineering. I figured this is it. I'm a technology guy. A couple years in, I realized, well, maybe not the technology solely. So I moved to architecture and really got a good feel for the creative, the design side. But then working for a great architect after graduation, realized it's actually the business side. The technology and the design come together to solve problems. So I ended up working with a cell service provider, so an operator way back when. But I was really focused on data and mobile apps and technology, not just cellular service. So from there, got into mobile startups, started doing some really cool things like mobile publishing, and this is pre-iPhone. So this is when things actually, it took a lot to build really cool things.
That's a lie. I don't think things existed pre-iPhone. I think I don't
Wow.
remember that time.
All just mini Java for mobile
Our audience is
apps.
Gen Z, right? Like they're just like, wait, what?
They had cell phones back then?
I
Rotary
can't
phone?
think
What's
of a
that?
time. I think I might be the youngest one over here. I can't think of a time pre-iPhone, so this obviously sounds a bit, what's that? I think 30 years of experience? Wow.
So think about what you see on shows or when you're traveling and you get yourself a burner phone. That's all we had. We had simple phones, but we wanted them to do things. We wanted to do more than just taking calls. So, I was with the startup. We were doing this mobile publishing stuff, and then we got a contract to help the first major bank in the U.S. launch mobile banking. So that was sort of the entry for me into the digital banking space. From there, with those startups, joined a couple of banks, leading their product management efforts and looking at, again, how the innovation and technology that was out there would help our customers. So everything from regular banking to investing to insurance. And then as I was looking at technology, started doing a deep dive into blockchain, because as that was starting to come up, it was, everybody was saying, hey, this is interesting. This is financial services, but not banking. So I did a deep dive and was just intrigued, from the business side of how crypto could help banking customers. Was just amazed at the potential. So started looking around, saw Kraken. They were awarded the first ever banking charter in the U.S. for a crypto company. So I reached out to the chief product officer there and said, hi, I'm Jeff. I know digital banking and maybe I can help. So jumped in at that point.
Yeah, wow. So we're more in the digital banking space now. For Gen Zs like me, I mean, going way back, you said from architecture to banking and the first digital banking space. Are we talking like banking on the phone itself, or is this like with software online or something, with the internet or something.
Yeah. So, again, imagine a world with no iPhone and barely cell phones. Flip phones were really cool because they were not just a big brick phone. So it had to start somewhere, right? And it evolved from online banking into mobile banking. And what was happening was online was the majority and mobile was, a small follow-on, and everything was built from online to mobile. So you just sort of crammed it down and made it acceptable. And that's what I found when I joined Dollar Bank here in the Pittsburgh area. They just had not moved forward into the space of digital banking at all, really. I was the first digital guy to join, even though they had online and mobile banking for 10 or 15 years. But the group that ran it was led by a customer service manager who had a committee called the Internet Committee that would then recommend things to the technology team to develop. So they built everything in-house as a bank, which is why when I joined, their mobile banking app in the iPhone store had a 1.4 star rating, which I looked at as they need some help, and this looks like only upside where I can have a great opportunity to help customers improve their financial lives, and that's what it's all about.
So I love the idea that there's an internet committee, right? There's this committee of people who are like, how do we handle this internet thing?
Yeah, and that's honestly what it was. I mean, they were building things using old COBOL technology, mainframe stuff, and trying to make it interactive and upgradable, and it just was failing. It was, again, something that was not very usable. The usage and penetration for the customers was incredibly low. So my first month at Dollar, I put out an RFP with some technology companies to say, help us. Here's what we have. Here's what we want to have. Because I have many banking relationships just to see what the competitors are doing. And I could see what the big banks across the street were doing. So, brought them in, did the full-on RFP dog and pony show, decided we're going to take some of this and some of that. We'll build a little bit ourselves. And, after a couple of years, relaunched everything, ripped it out and replaced it. And the customer satisfaction spiked, the usage spiked. After about 6 months, the star rating in the App Store was 4.7, so an increase from 1.4 to 4.7. And then the usage and adoption was improved over 300%. So just a huge win for the customers. And obviously for us, because it helped us drive customer adoption and stop people from leaving when they saw shiny objects across the street that they wanted.
Do you ever get any interesting feedback from this committee? I'm obsessed with this committee. Because it sounds like a committee put together of people who probably don't understand what the internet is very well. And yet they're trying to drive this for the company. And at least that's my guess here. You get interesting feedback like www, why not 4 Ws? That's even more powerful than 3.
Yeah, so they built everything themselves. So they knew technology. They had really solid banking infrastructure, all the normal banking, transaction processing and everything. But they were very risk averse. Good for a bank, bad if you're trying to sort of increase the innovation in technology. When I would introduce something new, like when I first started and said, okay, let's see what is out there, that we may want to use instead of what is built already. Part of the deal was that the technology team would put a bid in as well to say, this is what we can build, to look like and act like what the competitors have. And that was fine, but I also forced them to say, how about the upkeep? How about innovation on top of what we launch initially? How about in 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 years, what's the cost of maintaining 100 people in the engineering room instead of working with a best-in-class partner to bring in this technology and then getting those upgrades through their R&D budgets. So it was a challenge to introduce change, but change is never easy.
So moving on, why Bloxley now? Obviously, Kraken is an amazing place to start, but what makes Bloxley the next big thing?
So yeah, Kraken was a great step after after the digital banking space, it really helped me understand what crypto is all about, because it's about financial freedom. Banking is managing your financial life, but crypto is about financial freedom. And crypto is one part of it, but blockchain is the technology behind it. So at Kraken was able to really dive in and see what the intersection of crypto and blockchain technology is with banking. So helping people with their financial lives, but being more free. And a quick example of that is a bank will hold your money, which is great. They'll secure your money, which is great, but they'll also charge you lots of money to send money around the world. You want to send some money to a friend or a colleague or a company in Europe. You've got very limited options. Your freedom of choice in that scenario is you pay $40 to $50 to send a couple $100, and that's it. Crypto, enabled by a blockchain distributed around the world, is virtually instant and very, very low cost. So helping me to see that this technology is coming for all the banking services. It's just going to take a little time. To answer Sam's actual question about the jump to Bloxley, so Bloxley recognizes a few different things. It understands that banking is what people need to do to run their financial lives, and we can help do that better. Connecting it in with crypto and blockchain and enabling things to be done in a faster, cheaper, more, it's called trustless environment, where you don't have to trust the bank to do the right thing, because the crypto and blockchain network, it's recording every transaction in real time. That's always transparent and viewable. It has privacy layered in, but you don't have to trust it. It just is. So that's a huge part of the blockchain. And one of the things that Kraken is doing is layering in all the things I need to do for my banking, making sure my money is secure and I can access it and I can send money where I want, but layering it in so I don't have to be bound by sending a wire around the world. I can just go with stablecoin transactions that are instant and virtually free, and it's something that it gives me more freedom to control my money.
Wow. No. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think building on the trust side, and just more curious about the security side also, because you said it's what crypto is taking one step further on the trustless aspect. I mean, for our users at Bloxley and everyone else to understand on the security side of it, how is it like taking one step ahead from, let's say, traditional banking systems? You said how we're not supposed to depend on the current bank to do your work or any of the architecture over there. How does crypto go ahead one step on that angle in terms of executing on these payments and making sure that your money is secure?
Sure. And having my money safe and secure is non-negotiable, right? Any banking customer, I need to know my money's okay. I need to know I can access it when I want, and I can do with it what I want within the law. I mean, that's the big thing, right? And crypto has suffered many, many setbacks because there's always somebody who wants to ruin it for everybody, and they will take advantage. But recall, and again, the Gen Z thing, a bunch of years ago, there was a banking crisis and nobody trusted their banks. And that took years to come out of. Now you expect your bank to hold your money and also leverage your data to tell you how to make better financial decisions. 10 years ago, you got a message from your bank saying you're spending too much money on coffee. That was creepy and intrusive. I don't want my bank to know what I'm buying. Now it's expected. But the trust level of, okay, if my bank feels like stopping a transaction that I'm sending, I want to send $11,000 to somebody around the world because I'm taking a trip and I need this deposit and whatever. Banking regulations are incredibly heavy-handed. So if I send from the United States over $10,000 anywhere, the bank has the right and actually required to review it and potentially stop it. So why do I want my bank to do something that I know I'm a law-abiding citizen? I'm doing everything that's fine, but I could still get cut off. So layering in regulation with the freedom of crypto and being able to send, you or Sam money at any time for any reason, that's that's where, the trust and security get interlaced, and it makes it a whole lot easier for a customer to say, okay, great. Now I feel good. One, I'm sending money. It's fast. It's free.
Yep.
Two, I can trust it because I know the blockchain has these records that are immutable. They're not different depending on where you live or who you are. They treat everybody the same. You send, X number of any coin to somebody else, it arrives with that same amount. So that's the piece that, again, it adds freedom to your banking and, helping keep your financial life balanced.
And I think that's important to have both, because I used to work with the CEO, and what he would say is, like, with a lot of crypto companies, you might trust them to send $500 or $5,000, but would you trust $5 million? And on the converse side, you absolutely would trust your brick and mortar bank to send $5 million because you know it's not going to disappear there due to a bad wallet address or due to a bad actor in a smart contract or something like that. And our challenge, and I one of the things I love that Bloxley is solving is, can we have that trust factor with the technology of crypto, with immutable records, with instantaneous transactions across borders, things like that?
Just to add on to that, would you say stablecoins have kind of added that layer of security and regulation in there in terms of making it feel more secure for our customers down the line, saying that crypto is the next move due to stablecoins? Because there's also the factor of other cryptocurrencies have either the tendency of being very volatile. I mean, some completely ending up through the history that we've seen at least, is some ending up as scams. So do you think stablecoins adds an element of security on top of that? And is that something that enables Bloxley to make sure that crypto is secure for our clients?
No, and I think you're right, Sid. And I think, Sam, I'd love to get your thoughts from a marketer perspective on, how customers perceive and will perceive stablecoin versus other things. But I think, Sid, you're exactly right. I think the stablecoin being pegged at, $1, €1, whatever the stablecoin is connected to, gives people more security. It helps you understand, okay, this is not some crazy meme coin that, gets pumped up and then it crashes, and it's actually just used for transport. And, if I'm trying to move, again, $1,000 from my U.S. account to anywhere, it could be across the street, it could be around the world, I want to know that it's going to be worth that same amount when it gets to the other person. So today, when I send money through Venmo or Zelle here in the U.S., I know I'm sending $50 for dinner. Somebody receives it, they get $50. Stablecoin is going to enable, and does enable, pretty much the same thing, where, if I'm using it as a crypto user, I've got to convert my fiat currency into crypto, send it to somebody else's wallet. They have to convert it and get it out. But what we're seeing, and what we're going to be doing, and what Bloxley is leading, is I don't, as a banking customer, need to really know that it's crypto that's sending the money. I want $100 to go to Sam. I say, send $100, away it goes. It doesn't matter that it gets sent internally and there's no external records, because it's just both Bloxley customers. Or if it's sending it to Sid around the world, he can get it through a stablecoin transaction, and I never convert any crypto. It just goes as a stablecoin sandwich. It's something that it starts as fiat out of my account, and it ends up in Sid's account as fiat, and you never even have to touch the stablecoin. So I think it's definitely going to be driving adoption. And also, big banks are all over it. They are building networks, they're building huge teams, and it's primarily about, right now, sort of commercial transactions, sending lots of money through stablecoin around the world, because it's just so cheap.
From the marketing perspective, that's exactly it, right? Where we don't want to market the technology behind it, because, like you just said, right, the number of transactions and the degree in cryptocurrencyology you have to have in order to buy and trade a stablecoin can be problematic for the average user, right? If you're out there trading meme coins on daily, I'm sure it's not a problem for you. But if you're my wife or if you're Sid's best friend, and maybe you don't know how to do that. And so what we want to do is we want to get to the point where we're marketing the benefit of the technology, because that's what people understand. People understand, well, people might not understand the intrinsics of a stablecoin, but they do understand my transaction got to across the world to Germany from the US in 30 minutes instead of 3 days. Right, and that's huge. And then we can say, well, look what we're doing. People understand security. People understand, okay, there's a durable record of what I did, so my transactions are more secure. And we even see stablecoins start to be backed by actual precious metals now. Like Tether, just I think is one of the top holders of gold in order to back their stablecoin. So stablecoins also evolving into something a bit more fiat-like. And that's something that we'd say too. If your stable coin is just as secure as a dollar is, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from a user standpoint, at least, I think the biggest thing, I mean, even as a student, for someone who might use Bloxley, it comes down to the fact that if I send $100 to Sam tomorrow, I'm hoping he receives the $100 and I don't need to pay $45 in fees to send it off, and he receives it maybe 3 days later. If I send it right now, maybe $5 in fees probably, but as long as he gets it at the exact same time and he makes sure that he gets that exact $100 amount, it's secure enough for me. I think that's the biggest factor that I think people are really gonna come on to, which is it's so much more efficient and so much faster. I think that's one of the key areas where I think crypto would go ahead from.
Our goal is to make sure they just never know, right? Our goal is, as far as they're concerned, just the bank, just Bloxley sends their money fast, right? They don't need to know all the crazy infrastructure things that are going on the back end to make that happen.
Yeah, I love the term auto magically, right? It just works.
Wow.
I don't really care. And that's what blockchain infrastructure does. I mean, again, it's distributed ledger, so that there are multiple records of every transaction that anybody can, go and view. Now there's privacy, which is great and needed, but you can see that Sid sent Sam $100 worth of stablecoin. So the quick nature of it happening is because that's how the network was built, but also you're not relying on banking hours. So banks are closed on weekends.
Yep.
Guess what happens? Your money sort of sits there until a batch runs, until somebody can actually verify that it works. Not the same with stable coins and blockchains. They're running all the time, and your money is going to move when you want it to move.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I had these issues myself when I live across probably 3 different countries. I had these issues when I was paying for my university fees. I had to pay, I think, because of a late fee, I had to pay $120 because the bank took, I think, 4 days. It was a weekend, and there was plus, I think, the Mooncake Festival in Hong Kong. So it took 4 days to process my transaction. I had to pay £200 extra just for the bank to process and send the payment to the university, which is in England. So definitely makes sense. But I mean, I love the word also, automagically. I think I'm obsessed with that word now. I'm going to definitely use it down the line.
You're welcome.
But would you say, in terms of sending the money now and how you, especially when you use the word automagically, would that be something related to the UI UX that we're kind of building into Bloxley, or is that something what the user should feel when they're building when they open the app for the first time? Is that something that's going to be heavily built in, which is it's seamless? That's something I'm guessing we're building on.
Great transition, because you're absolutely right. Again, the technology behind it, sure. I mean, it's got to work. And like I said before, it's got to be secure. But where a lot of the big banks fail is they just over-club people with it's secure and we have technology, so you have to click through all these screens because we're a bank and you get access to your money that way. What they have to understand is that, customers, especially young customers who are, digital natives, have never lived without, in a world without iPhones, they expect everything to work as easily as all the other apps they use. So if you're jumping from, your TikTok videos to grabbing an Uber to, your side gig running Instacart, it just works, and your thumb flies across the screen, and it's simple, and it just happens incredibly fast. So when somebody opens the Bloxley app for the first time, we have to understand that. We have to know what their expectations are as a user. And as everybody knows, you've got one shot at making a great first impression. So that's what we have to do when somebody uses the app and signs up and then starts, trusting us with their money and letting us help them run their financial life. So it's got to be simple, and it's got to be quick. And that's what we're really focused on. And that's one of the things that really brought me to Bloxley was, this is different. This is a cool way to do it, and also to approach it from a user experience and design perspective. Yeah, we're going to have all the regulations covered and the security and all that. But yeah, you as a customer don't have to pay the price of just slogging through horrible experiences because we just make you do it because we can, like a bank does.
Yeah, I mean, the closest reference, which I think Emmanuel, our president on the last podcast, mentioned, was when he opened all the banking apps and everything. It felt like using a Windows 2007 computer. Whereas when you want to open the Bloxley app, he mentioned something about it being as pristine as like iOS 26, where it's like those other app comparisons to then opening something which feels probably 2 decades outdated, let's say. But yeah, I mean, is that something, Jeff, that you would say you would agree on? Is that something we're working towards?
Absolutely. And again, it's that first impression, and it even goes before I open the app. It's, drawing people in to use the app. You have to have a value proposition of, here's what we can offer you, and that has to be good. And that's Sam's job, to help people understand why this is interesting and how it's going to help them. And you're absolutely right. If I feel like I'm walking backwards in technology, it may not be that I don't trust this new app, but I just don't like it, so I'm not going to use it. And that's the same as any user. Again, if you have a decision to make between grabbing a Lyft or grabbing an Uber, the Uber app is easier because it knows you better, so it just can find me quicker and get me a better driver. So boom, that's what I use.
I get this screen on my computer every month now where Windows is like, you must upgrade to Windows 11, and I'm like, heck no, I'm staying on Windows 10 until I die. And upgrading is a challenge, right? Getting people to upgrade is a challenge, and I think the banking industry as a whole is very slow to move. So what's holding the industry back? Why don't we see bigger adoption of these new technologies and these new ease of use factors?
So I think regulation is one. We touch on the industry is incredibly regulated. Every country has their regulations that are a little bit different, but mostly there to protect the user. Make sure your money's safe, make sure you understand. Here in the U.S., you've got FDIC insurance or NCUA insurance, $250,000 in any bank account. Even if the bank vault explodes tomorrow, I still have access to that $250,000. So, there's a certain baseline that a bank has to deal with. And we, as a fintech or any fintech, have to deal with. But the user experience at big banks, going back to the internet committee that I used to proudly lead, it's tough to get things done because change is hard. And in order to keep my banking license, I need to stay within all these regulatory bounds and guidelines. And if I don't, there's big trouble. If somebody wants to add a cool new little widget onto our mobile banking app, I don't have to do that. And that's the challenge with big banks, is they see the priority very clear in black and white. But as a user and maybe a new customer, if I see that this is a Windows XP machine that I've got to try to figure out how to use, no, I'm not going to do it, because my money is going to be the same color at the bank across the street that just lets me log in and do what I need to do in 30 seconds.
Little backstory here for me. One of the companies I worked at was legal security, and the biggest challenge we had was getting a lawyer to use anything new. It was because it was that safety and security factor. They're still all using Outlook 2003 still, and to try to convince some guys that's not secure, we need to get you onto the cloud, or you need to let our AI tools help you out because it can tell if someone's in your data, was one of the hardest challenges we had, just because the grip on that old technology was so strong.
Yeah, and banking is very, very similar to the legal profession and industry, where when I started at my last bank, cloud was a 4-letter word. And whenever any of these vendors who we wanted to partner with said, oh, yeah, we keep it all in the cloud, it's like, thank you, goodbye. It's like, no. There's good cloud and there's bad cloud. There's secure cloud and there's open cloud. There's partitioned, and it's leveraging the technology and having an understanding of how it's going to help you. And then again, accepting that change is okay, even though it's tough and it takes a little while.
But coming back to, the banking side of it, at least, in my relatively short career compared to Jeff's in advising and working with banks, one quote that one of my partners at EY Parthenon told me was something about banks that he learned was, what's not broken, don't fix it. So they just have that mindset of, if it's working, if it's making them money, there's no reason to fix it. But I guess being at a fintech now at Bloxley, I think all of us have very different mindsets.
Yeah. When you think about banking in general, there's, in the US, there are thousands of banks, but there's 10 that handle all accounts and all transactions with few exceptions. 80%, it's definitely an 80-20 type of rule. And that's similar around the world. Canada's got basically 4 or 5 big banks, but they have a bunch of smaller banks, but people don't use them that much. So the big banks, who control all the money and all the transactions, they're not going to, fix something that's not broken because it's working. And that's, in the last 40 years, there have been 0 new banking rails or transaction rails in the U.S. That changed a year and a half, 2 years ago, when FedNow and RTP, or real-time payments, were introduced. And it's a bit of a game changer because it shows that these big banks are starting to realize that they've got to adopt and move forward with technology. Now, I think sort of the funny part about FedNow and RTP, it allows real-time money movement from one bank customer to a different bank's customer. But the banks have to have a pool of their cash sitting to back all of those transactions that get processed overnight in a batch. So they really haven't created a new real-time money movement rail. What they've done is they've sort of masked the actual money movement to say, okay, it usually takes 2-3 days to get processed from bank to bank. Now we'll process overnight, but it's still going to take a little while, and the customer thinks, hey, great, I just moved money in real time. It's like, no, you're basically taking a loan from the bank. They're going to have to pay it back to the other bank. And again, back to blockchain, it's just not how blockchain works. Blockchain moves value from person to person. That's the way it should be.
Wow, that is something definitely new I've learned today. I thought real-time payments was actually real-time payments. For someone who's used, I think, was it Zelle? Yeah, I think Zelle was one of the first companies that came out with real-time payments. And I remember early on last year discussing with you, Jeff, regarding Bloxley getting faster payment systems. I didn't know it worked like that. I thought it was, because I think in Hong Kong, at least, from what I do know, it's a bit different. And they actually do settle it instantly. And I think it's the same for countries like India. If a country like India with 1.4 billion people and not nearly the size or the economy of the US can get something like real-time payments. But yeah, the real-time payments thing has thrown me off right now. I didn't know about this. I didn't know they had to keep a pool on the side.
And again, the settlement can happen in sort of real time, but it's still, you're drawing out of one pool and into another pool. So it's not like, you and I don't hold money for anybody that may want to send me money, or, I want to give you value, and it instantly goes and you receive it. That's the way it should be, and not based on, a pool of money by a big company somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
We can talk about Zelle a little bit more, because actually when I was at Dollar, I was one of the first 30 banks to launch Zelle, because I knew it was important. because Venmo was eating all the transactions, and Zelle was the answer. So
I didn't know about the whole thing of how banks operate in terms of the faster payment systems. I mean, coming from places that I've seen, Hong Kong and India, they actually do have faster payment systems where it's instant clearing. So if you see India, stuff like UPI and everything, they've got a population of 1.4 billion, and they've made life easier for so many people. I think, just building on the making life easier thing for people, what do you think of AI coming into this place, and how you think banks and fintechs and everything can leverage AI, especially Bloxley? I mean, I know we've got a lot of things going on right now with AI. What would you say is something that we're building towards, and the big thing in AI next for fintechs?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of AI, but I do want to give a shout out to humans. Humans rule. AI will always be the tool that we can use to help make things better. And in banking, it just makes sense. AI has been around, call it large language models or whatever you want, for years, and it's helping on the customer support side. Absolutely, that is critical to help people answer questions about their finances. But AI can help customers do things. I can remind me that I've got to pay my electric bill, and okay, that's great. But then it can ask me, hey, do you want me to send that bill for you? And or send the check for you? And you say yes, and away it goes. Interacting with AI instead of having to log in and do something, that's a huge step forward. And taking it to the help me live a better financial life, it can tell me I'm spending too much money on coffee and say, hey, you should get a tall instead of a grande. Put that $5 in your shared vacation fund that we've set up at Bloxley with you and your friends.
Yeah, definitely. I think just one more thing to add that you mentioned a bit was the way Bloxley especially is considering utilizing AI. Would you say it's more on the customer support end, which is the more traditional route that the current banks and everything have gone for? Or is it more on the front end of it, where the customer's actually seeing the AI on a daily basis and it's improving their customer experiences, not when they have issues, but exactly when they are going to pay something or paying a bill, as you mentioned? Is that something Bloxley's being big on? Or when you say that, you can basically use your voice to then send a payment to someone else using faster payment systems, or even stable coins down the line? But yeah.
Absolutely. So I definitely see it as being a customer, sort of my personal assistant. Again, it knows what my banking transactions are, my habits, what I'm doing, what I'm saving money for, if I'm budgeting, when I have to pay bills. And having an interface can be voice, but it could also be chat. I mean, why can't AI just send me a quick text to say, hey, reply with yes, and I'll send that electric bill? So that's where we see a huge user experience improvement over what people are having to do today. And again, it's all about simplicity and making it easy to use, and important for me as a customer to know that Bloxley is looking out for my financial health, or for financial health, and helping me achieve what I want to achieve.
And from a marketing perspective, the AI revolution will not be televised, right? If you have to think about it, and this is what you said, but if you have to think about it, if it's there, it doesn't work. What's everybody's frustration with those chatbots on every single website is it doesn't understand your problem. Like if you're trying to get tech support help, it doesn't understand your problem, and it's sending you to docs that aren't helpful, and it won't let you talk to a real person. Why do you want to talk to a real person? Because you know that person is going to understand you. And when AI and banking has worked the best, it's when it's flagging, like let's say fraud on your credit card. When you get that text from your bank and it's like, we found fraud, and there's no person on the other end going line by line through every transaction that you've made, looking for that one fraudulent transaction from Tijuana, right? No, it's at the, it's like, I know this person is in San Jose, not Tijuana. This is probably fraudulent. We're going to text them immediately, and you don't even realize that that's AI working for you. And that's kind of where we have to be. If you're aware of the AI, then the AI is not working on the back end because it's not providing you the benefit that you want.
Right. And I don't need to be friendly with my AI. I don't need it to be polite. Just tell me what's going on, and do it so that I don't learn later something that I should have known earlier. And that's the value of AI. Like you said, you could have a room full of people watching transactions come across online, but they can't react fast enough to save your money before it's already gone, and then trying to recover it. That's a huge pain. So let's just leverage technology to make life better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think AI is definitely something that's going to help people out. Not only, I mean, in terms of the security aspect, but also day-to-day lives. I mean, as you mentioned, even your basic reminder to pay a bill, or even telling you that, oh, you're overspending on coffee every day. I know at least my generation, we're very much on the consumer spending side, and we're very heavy on it. We might need some advice from AI saying, okay, how we can cut back on these spendings and be financially secure and build a better financial future.
And that's part of what Bloxley is trying to do is help you not just in one of these areas, but all of these areas, right? It's bringing it together so that you have control of your finances, you can move money when you want, and we can help you budget and save and work, towards goals. And that is useful and that's helpful. Again, it's all about making our customers' financial lives better.
So, speaking of advice and making people's lives better, we're at the end of our podcast. So, Jeff, last question for you. You've been building fintech products for years now. What's the one thing you'd wish you'd known 30 years ago when you got started?
Yeah, great question. And, the thinking back on a lot of the different things that I've done, I wish I'd asked more questions earlier. Didn't assume that I knew things, as opposed to, just aligning myself with great people and assuming they knew more and asking them and then absorbing and learning and constantly doing that, constantly learning more and then taking a bit of a leap, going beyond what I'm comfortable doing, and sort of accomplishing things, failing along the way, because if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So taking those risks and moving into something that's new and cool and interesting. I did some of that. I could have done more, but that's where I think it's lessons learned on, okay, great. Let's move in this direction. Let's know more about the technology without having to create the technology and figure out how it can help customers. And that's again what we're focused on now. And that's the exciting part, is solving these problems and fixing issues.
Well, Jeff, I'd say I'm going to have a lot of questions for you tomorrow morning then. But apart from that, no, I think that's a great piece of advice, especially for someone around let's say my stage in their career, having that ability to ask people questions when they have the right people around themselves. I'm definitely going to reach out to you tomorrow with a lot of questions around stablecoins. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, on faster payment systems, and I completely didn't know about that. I thought it was a instant settlement. I should probably know about this, but yeah, no, it's been great having you. I think Sam and I've had the pleasure to have you on the podcast for the last 40 minutes or so, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.